When someone's asking, so how do I just start? It's almost like the underlying question is, how do I know when I know enough? How do I know when I'm ready enough? How do I know when I've done enough research and listened to enough of your podcast to actually just, try this?
Right.
And I'm like, that's the answer though, is that there's never going to be a time when you're not learning something new. So when you're used to that, then it doesn't matter where you start and when.
Hey, Pro Organizers, it's your podcast co-host, Melissa, and I hope that you are having an absolutely awesome week. I know I am just doing like a million different things, and so I decided that for this week on the podcast, I don't know about you guys, but my attention span, I don't know if it's the end of the school year for the kids, and there are a lot of things going on. I am in the middle of doing a lot of work for Pro Organizer Studio. We are totally revamping our entire Inspired Organizer course, so I am deep into that, and I'll tell you guys about that a little bit more in a few weeks, but there's just a lot going on right now, and I know my attention span is very short. So I decided I'm going to bring you a couple of really quick hit episodes, but things that are thought starters and things you can contemplate maybe while you're driving to a client, but that will not take a lot of time out of your day. So today I'm going to start this for the next couple of episodes, and I wanted to start with one. We got an email the other day from someone who was asking about what's the perfect time basically to start my business. And she gave me a couple of details about what she has going on in her life and all of that. But I thought about that email and I was like, you know what? We have something. Jen and I had a conversation about this one time and I found it. The thing about this conversation is Jen has so many things that she says that I realize it's not just about whether it's time to start a business. It's really about what's the right time to start doing anything different, whether it is starting your organizing business, whether it is starting a team in your organizing business, whether it is time to pivot into something, no matter what it is, whatever you're trying to decide about, if you're reaching some sort of a crossroads in your organizing business, this is advice that really hit me. I know I am doing a lot of things in my organizing business, Home by 11, and I got a lot out of this, listening to this conversation that ironically I was a part of. But you know what? Sometimes we forget really good advice that we got. So I wanted to share this with you. I think it'll be helpful to everyone, and it's a nice little short episode. And then I'll be back in a couple of days with another short episode because I found another gem from the archives that really hit me where I needed it this week. Just a quick reminder, if you have not joined us for our free workshop, the Pro Organizers Profit Plan, it is up for you any time of the day or night. I don't know about you guys. I've been waking up a lot in the middle of the night. So if you really want some entertainment, I am there for you. It is at POroadmap.com and we would love to see you there. All right, here we go.
A lot of people ask us the basic question, which is the hardest question to answer. How do I get started? Sometimes the simplest question is the hardest question. Part of my answer to this question is just get started. Mm-hmm. Because I actually think one of the reasons I have been successful is because I really gave almost no thought whatsoever to starting a business. And I just said, I'm doing it. Someone who never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Never. Being an entrepreneur was one of the scariest things that I could have ever imagined. I had to take an entrepreneurship class in grad school. And we had to present an entrepreneurial idea. We didn't even have to do it. I had the cold sweats. I remember I had hives coming up my neck when I had to present this idea. Yeah. And so being an entrepreneur was something that was very scary to me. And so when I decided to become a professional organizer, I just said, I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. Sure. And I think sometimes we can overthink things so much that then you give all these reasons as to why I can't do it. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to build a website. Neither did I. I didn't know how to organize in someone's home. I didn't know how to get an LLC set up. I didn't know how to do anything. Yeah. But I just said, I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And other people figured out how to do this, so I must be able to figure out how to do this. Right. So I think part of that answer is just have the confidence that you'll be able to figure it out. But mm-hmm. thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and never doing anything. Mm-hmm. Or thinking about, well, I have to make a list of all the things I need to do. Right. I think there are a lot of reasons why somebody would be asking. They have all the information, but how do I get started? And this is one of the reasons why I felt very compelled about telling people
or sharing my experience, which is you can do this as a side hustle. It does not have to be your full-time business on day one or day ever.
Yes.
Or it can be a side hustle, part-time business for a while, and then later it can be a full-time thing, or never. Yes. I mean, it's okay for it to look like whatever it has to look like for you. And what being your own boss allows you to do, and especially with a business like this where you can take it with you, like maybe your spouse is relocating and you want to start over somewhere else, or maybe now you're about to have twins and you're not going to work for a while, but you kind of like want to have some clients that you keep seeing. You have a lot of flexibility to have it mold and shape along with your life circumstances. So when we're talking about getting started, it's like, okay, if your goal is just because you want to make $1,000 by next Monday, the answer is a little different than if you know that this is the type of business you want to slow down, be able to set your own schedule. You want to be able to be your own boss. This is not a 2-week project and then now you have a full-time entrepreneurial venture. You know, I think there's a lot of lessons about being your own boss that along the way that you cannot quite rush, right? Like getting a client and making some money and getting the website started. I mean, we talk a lot about these things that you're doing at the beginning to set yourself up for success down the road, but you can't necessarily come up against all of the obstacles and all of the growth lessons and say, okay, I'm going to have those done 6 weeks into it and I'll be ready to go to
I know how to do everything.
Scaling and building a team. It's personal growth, which does not come on a schedule. The personal growth of accepting that you are the one who's in charge and that you are making your own rules, and to kind of settle into your confidence of, I'm the one who is designing my business plan and business model around what works for me, and it's okay for it to not look exactly like someone else's, and it's okay for me to invest time and energy into maybe even reworking things that are not working for you and figure out how to improve those things, because you probably won't get the recipe correct right out of the gate for how this business is going to work for you forever. So getting comfortable with that process of continuous improvement, I think, is something that for people who are perfectionists, it's a hard lesson of entrepreneurial life, that you don't have all of those things set for you and that you're going to have to continually adapt to circumstances as you go forward. So COVID certainly brought out some of those challenges for certain people who thought, I mean, Melissa and I have talked about this on the podcast a few times, you know, people who thought, oh, well, everybody else who's growing a big business is growing a big team and hiring these employees. And then I thought that's what I needed to do. And so I started doing that, and I found out I can't stand managing people. And Melissa and I both agree that is not the path for everybody, and that's okay. And when you start to compare yourself to other people, it's going to eventually slow you down because you're not listening to what is working for you and for the types of clients that you want to have. If you do want to grow a team and become a leader of a company or franchise your business, I mean, people have a lot of dreams of how to expand this once it gets going, because I would say this industry is still very much growing and expanding and becoming more mainstream. That is its own business path where you have leadership, personal growth milestones that are going to come to you at unexpected times. So your timeline might be different than somebody else's, and that is 100% fine. I think that's something that really needs to be said over and over again, is no matter what your goal is, part of being a business owner is being a risk taker, and not just being a risk taker, but adjusting and adapting to the things that you learn along the way while you're taking those risks and learning those lessons and applying them to you and to your clients and to what you want the next 5 or 10 years of your life to look like. Not that you have to have it perfectly planned out, but having a better vision of what would make you happy. Like, the more you know, the better, right? And sometimes you don't know those things at the beginning. So it's kind of like with your client, you've got to adjust and give it the time that it needs and the time that it deserves for you to process those lessons and to actually apply them to yourself. Gosh, that was like a little mini
really
sermon.
good.
Because don't you think when someone's asking, so how do I just start? It's almost like the underlying question is, how do I know when I know enough? How do I know when I'm ready enough? How do I know when I've done enough research and listened to enough of your podcast to actually just, try this?
Right.
And I'm like, that's the answer, though, is that there's never going to be a time when you're not learning something new. So when you're used to that, then it doesn't matter where you start and when.
Also, I had someone say this to me, and this is not a personal statement. You can decide that you like kids and want to have kids, or you never want to have kids. But I remember when I was in that phase of my life when you might be starting to think about having a family, and someone said, there's never a perfect time.
Yeah.
If you wait for the perfect time for you to be making the exact perfect amount of money and have the perfect job and it's the right weather outside or whatever, like if you wait for a perfect time to do anything,
Yeah.
you're not going to get a major sign. There's not going to be an airplane that flies by and says, it's time to start a business. The perfect time is when you realize, I want something different, or this is a dream that I cannot stop thinking about. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or I have always wanted to be a professional organizer, or everyone in my life has told me I should be a professional organizer, or I'm in a job transition. That's the story that happened to me. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. That scenario is going to be different for every person. The reason I started my business is different than the reason Jen started her business. Every single organizer has a different start to their business. You're never going to get a formula of A plus B equals C, and C is the perfect time to start your business.
Yeah. And you know what else is not going to happen? There won't suddenly be 6 people that heard that you love organizing that are going to call you all at the same time and say, I don't know, I have this crazy idea. Can you just come to my house and I'll pay you to make it look pretty?
Right.
Like, I mean, if that were to happen to everybody, then we would be like, this is a sign.
Right.
It should I mean,
Yes.
But like, unfortunately, nobody knows about that until you start talking about it. So how do you start is you have to start talking about it. Now, Melissa and I have shared about a million ways. You can either talk to a crowd of 1,000 people or you can talk to one person. But you've got to be in the habit of talking about it in a way where you're just sharing what you do. It's not about selling them on it. It's just kind of like, hey, you know that show? Marie Kondo? You know that show?
Home Edit?
Yeah. I help people organize their house. Like, yeah, that's the thing.
And yes, I get paid for it. And all those other questions that people ask you, like, wait, people pay you to do that? Yes, they do. I have had multiple different careers, and I have never had a career that when someone is making small talk with you and say, what do you do? When I say, I'm a professional organizer, I have never had anyone go, well, that's boring. I need to go get a drink and I need a new appetizer. I got to go. People love talking to me about my job. And I will tell you, to the point that sometimes I'm at a party or an event and I'm like, I'm kind of tired of talking about work right now because I work all week. So like, I don't really maybe want to talk about it now. People talk to me about it eagerly and excitedly, and it's not because they're trying to be nice. They are fascinated by what we do. So when you start talking about, this is what I do, you are not annoying people. And you don't have to do it in a salesy way. You don't have to say, hey, well, can I schedule a consult at your house? That's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
People are obsessed with talking to me about my job.
I have a funny story for you. I don't think I've ever shared on, certainly not on the podcast.
Exclusive.
Ooh, this is an exclusive. I love this because I do have little things like in my pocket that I'm like, one day I'm going to say that on the podcast.
And today's the day.
I know. So one time, a guy said to me, he's like, you're a professional organizer. He's like, how much do you charge? And, you know, of course, we're not thinking ideal client here, right? And I'm like, well, it's $100 an hour, but, you know, I do like packages of sessions or whatever. And he's like, okay, great. So here's what I want to happen. I will pay you $100 to just approach my wife in a social setting and just tell her she has too much stuff and she needs to downsize. And I was like, and that'll take me 15 minutes. Now, that didn't actually happen, but it just goes to show you that people are always thinking, they're like, would I necessarily hire you? Probably not. But what he was saying to me was, I need the words, or I need the motivation to talk to my wife because now we need to go through the downsizing process. And I get that. And, you know, I said to him, I said, I will talk to your wife for free. I was like, but it sounds like if she needs help, I said, at least you know that exists. And he's like, you're exactly right.
Yep.
And I do think that was kind of funny because I was like, okay, there's a whole nother, when you talk about a little side angle, you're like, I could also just be the wingman.
Yes.
For the spouse that just needs somebody who does this as a business to just sort of motivate a little bit.
Get a little nudge.
I'm like, oh, I'll get paid $100 per 15 minutes to be a wingman. Yeah, I love that.
That actually would be a great profession. Wing
organizer.
Like I said earlier, I was a participant in that conversation and I forgot some of the awesome things that were in there. So I hope that helped you out. And listen, all of us every organizer that I know, including myself, suffers from a little bit of overthinking and all of that. So if there is something that you have been thinking about or procrastinating on or really just trying to overthink, I want to just how about you just throw it out there this week? See if you can make some progress on it. And if that progress involves something that you need a little bit of extra help with, please feel free to organize me. Listen, guys, I told you that I'm going all over the place and I have things on my mind. Here is what I meant to say. Please feel free to throw me an email at hello@proorganizerstudio.com. I really read them. I really respond to them. I'm the only person that reads it and I'm the person that responds to it. So I would absolutely love to hear from you of what you're thinking about and what you're working on. And I will talk to you soon with another little mini episode. Have a good day.